And Melanie, you are there by the falls, the waterfalls. Yeah, it's great. Okay, well, wow, it's good to see everyone. Welcome. We've got some new faces here, and so I want to go around. Let's see, I've got I need to go to the PowerPoint. There we go. So we're on Paul the Pastor, and so as a welcome, so going around the room and the Zoom room and talking about what in one sentence, what is your best trip and why, and your name. Okay, and so I'll start. I'm Ellen. And I think my trip to Alaska, because it was just so stunning. And that Inside Passage was our first cruise, and to see that scenery going by from just all sorts up to glaciers, it was too much. So yeah, that's mine. All right.
My name is Peggy Karen, and my
oh, sorry. Yep.
I'm used to this. I'm Peggy Parent, and my best trip was probably about 10 years ago. And that was the reason was I could be
Wait. It was what? The reason was what?
Disney World.
Oh, be a kid. Yeah. Yeah. Just mute everyone. Mute everyone.
Sorry, that's my
room. No.
Oh, it's because Anne's logged in twice, I think.
yeah.
Okay. Just mute her. Just mute her. Okay.
She's talking.
Yeah. Okay, we muted you, Anne. So if you're back to one device, just do one. Come back with us. Okay. We can't hear you. You're talking and we can't hear you. You have to unmute. There she is.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, we're good. It's technology. Okay, Diane.
My name is Diane Galloway, and probably my best trip was recently I went to Portugal and Venice with our son Greg, his wife Laura, and all 4 grandchildren.
Wow.
Keeping up with 4 grandchildren in Portugal was a real experience.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Karen Cosby, and I really think my best trip was the one that we're going to talk about today, the Footsteps of Paul with Turkey and Greece. Because it was an emotional and spiritual journey.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you want to?
Okay. Okay.
This is Sandra Hurlbert. I don't know, the thing that popped into my mind, because I'm wearing a t-shirt from Villages in Partnership. We went to Malawi on one of those trips, and I've got a picture here of, they've just opened their health center in Malawi, and it's just amazing that what they get done over there, and how, you know, they work with the chiefs. I mean, it just a different kind of red tape than what we have to do here. But, you know, you work with the chiefs to get land to be able to build these things. And this health center is just gorgeous. And it's just amazing that they've done that. And we just got these t-shirts yesterday. So in the mail, when I thought that it was my book for this thing, but I'll get that sometime soon. So,
wow.
But yeah,
That's
it's pretty neat.
Yeah.
I'm Kate Morrell, and I think my best trip or my most favorite trip I've been on was spending a considerable amount of time in the Rhine Valley in Germany, getting to connect with cultural heritage there and see places that my family was from and had lived in for, hundreds of years, and just being able to sort of deep dive into my family's past was just really special to me.
Wow.
My name's Barbara Hamilton. I think my best trip was probably 10th grade. We were living in Cleveland, Ohio, and Dad decided to take a weekend drive. We went to Niagara Falls,
Wow, that's great.
and we went to Niagara Falls on the Canadian side from, I don't know exactly where we crossed, but we got to see the backside of the Great Lakes.
Mm-hmm.
And they do a much better job of cleaning up the yard and stuff up there than we do here. The difference is really noticeable.
Hmm.
Hi, my name is Doreen Hughes, and
Welcome. We're glad you're here.
thank
A
you.
first timer. This is exciting.
Yes, glad to be here. Probably, we travel a lot, but probably the most memorable was Winston's graduation trip, class of 2018. We went on a cruise and saw Europe as well. So we were gone about 3 weeks, and we just, traveled and cruised and saw all of Europe. And so that's probably the most memorable because of, that importance of, graduating and going on to dental school and so forth. So
Yeah.
that would be it.
Yeah. Monumental.
Hi, I'm Ann Parton, and I go on a lot of trips, and I hate it when people say, "What was your favorite trip?"
Uh-huh.
Do not do this again.
I love you too.
Ellen and I have something going on. But I got to thinking, and I tell you, one of the most, and it sort of was a religious experience, but we went back long time ago. We went backpacking in the Smokies, and when I'm out in the woods, where it's beautiful and peaceful and calm, I always think, how can somebody not believe in God if they can,
Yeah.
But anyway, you just reminded me of that trip, and we have great pictures from it. And
Yeah. Put your memories in color. Yeah.
Hi, this is Lisa Alt, and I think my most memorable trip was to Southeast Asia. We went Thailand, Laos, and Cambodia. And I would say it was because it was so starkly different. I had just retired. My son planned the trip, so my research was minimal, and it was just an absolutely fabulous reset. And
Wow.
and there was it was just amazing in so many ways.
Yeah.
My name is Judy Forbes, and it's really hard to pick my best. I feel really blessed that we did get to travel a lot, but I think really if I had to pick one, it'd be the Holy Land. That just really, that really spoke to me, and I could feel Christ's presence so many different times where goosebumps would just rise on me, and I just could feel the presence of him. It was remarkable. It was probably one of my best.
Yes, great. Okay, online. Welcome, Holly. Thank you. We're glad you're here. So let's see, how about Pam? Oh, wait, you're muted.
All right. This is like asking me my favorite food. I think I would have to say one of my best favorites was when we went to Ireland for his birthday. We did a bus tour kind of all around the whole perimeter of the coastline of Ireland, and the beauty of the country and the people that we were on the trip with, all the people we met at all the little places, and the music and just everything. Everything about it could not have been more lovely or more fun.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Ann Turner.
Well, I guess overall my favorite long term would be I lived in England for 3 years back in the late 70s, early 80s, and went a lot of different places. But in recent days, probably my trip to Israel too was the best overall. I mean, it was a whole lot more obviously than just sightseeing. So very special.
Yeah. Okay, Judy.
Morning. I would say the destination would be Ephesus. And like so many of you have said, of walking someplace that was like Paul had walked and so many ancient people and from the Bible times had walked, that was very special.
Yes.
Good to see all of you.
Yeah, good to see y'all. Got a lot of folks online. Okay, Victoria. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry about that. My favorite trip was back in around 1988 when I went to the Soviet Union with a community choir. And my grandparents came from Russia as teenagers. So it was really special to get a better understanding of the culture that they had grown up in. And it was really meaningful.
Wow. Yes. Holly.
Yes. I'm sorry I was late. What's my best trip? I feel like my whole life is a trip.
Best trip and why? Yeah, it is now, isn't it?
Oh my gosh. I feel like just this whole past year has been my best trip because I've been able to reconnect with family, being able to like jump on this amazing Bible study, and just God's beauty everywhere we go is just incredible. So I don't have one specific trip, because I feel like every day I'm just so blessed to experience like the weather here. I don't want to rub it in because I know how bloody hot it is down there, but it's like 55 degrees out and sunny, and the leaves are changing, and I don't know. It's just, my life is, it's a big trip. It's amazing. So welcome. Thank you for welcoming me. It's good to see everyone. Surprise, Victoria.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's a few of us waiting outside to be let in, and we can't get the door to unlock.
Oh. Wow. What the heck? Okay. Thank you. Come in. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Sorry.
Mr.
Have mercy. What the heck? Was it open earlier? Yeah. Yeah, it's probably till 10:15. Yes, can I help you?
Mr. Eads.
Yeah. Would you go down to Austin and get Blaine? Just come in and sit there in the entryway, and we'll get Blaine come down to meet you.
Some guys here who are looking for someone named Mr. Eads.
Yeah, we got it. Can you just go tell Emma that she needs to page or call Blaine?
Thanks. Sorry.
And go to the north entrance. Okay, thanks. No, they're in.
No, they're not. Still
She's not, no. I mean, they're in. They're in. The door was open. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's in. They're in. Thank you. Sorry. Okay. Heather, are you in? Can't hear you.
You're muted, Heather.
Technology is great.
I will sign off now and see you in about 45 seconds.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, so she's just got a background on her thing. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, let's see. Melanie.
Probably, first of all, welcome back, Holly. Glad to see you, and so nice to see you, Judy Forbes. Glad that you're there. Probably my favorite trip was a Viking cruise from from Paris to Normandy, and mainly because of just the amazing history and going to the beach, you know, and the history of World War II, and it was so incredibly moving.
Yeah. Good. Good. Well, thank you for sharing, everyone. Did I get everybody? It looks like I did. Oh, Heather and Ann. Yes, wait, where's our thing? Oh, and Catherine is our. Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Hello.
people came in. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I just moved
Your
from one
name?
group to another. I'm Heather Brackett.
Yeah.
And like so many other people said, it's so hard to narrow it down to one. But I was thinking probably my 15th anniversary trip to the UK with my husband, where we went to Edinburgh, Belfast, Cardiff, Bath, and London. And one sentence, sticky toffee pudding. That's
That's good.
I'm Ann McCulley, and I started to say to Southeast Asia, but then I remembered one of our first trips, we left New Year's Eve and flew to Germany and went to Salzburg and then through that part and Kent, and the kids went skiing and I went on a sled ride and through the snow. It was fabulous.
You were dashing through the snow.
I was dashing through the snow. You know, we had never seen, we were on the train, had never seen snow 4 feet on top of the buildings. So.
Yeah, that's great. Yes.
Sorry, I was late.
That's okay.
Right. I've been here 35 years. Twice I've seen a train on that.
Yeah.
Oh, well, okay, that's enough. Okay, I've complained enough.
Yeah.
This is Susan.
Yeah.
And I'm fortunate enough to be old enough to have made some really wonderful trips in my lifetime. I got down to two.
Just one.
Okay, Scotland's one, but I'll talk about our 25th anniversary was our first cruise that went to Alaska.
Yeah.
And as we were walking down the what do you call it, the hallway to get to our stateroom, I saw this young man pushing a cart in our direction, and it had a bottle of champagne and a thing and a plate of chocolate covered strawberries. And I said, "Well, boy, somebody's really getting a nice little treat for their trip." And we went on into our stateroom and we're, you know, shut the door, and there's a little discreet knock on our door. And this gentleman came into our stateroom with that bucket of champagne and those chocolate covered strawberries, and our children had ordered that delivered to our room because it was our 25th anniversary. So that was pretty cool.
That's a big deal. Yeah. You could have gone to Dalhart and yeah. Good to see you. Hi.
I'm Carlene Chambers. Boy, it's tough to think about these trips. But we've been to Alaska 5 times, and I guess that's probably going to be my favorite. We have friends up there, so and we've done a cruise, but then a lot of times we just went and visited our friends. So
yeah,
I'll have to say that's the best for us, for me.
Yeah.
I'm I'm Catherine Kaviz, and one of my favorite trips is one I went on this summer. Actually, it was an Alaskan cruise, and we went with my family because it was my grandparents' 50th wedding anniversary, and so we went with my grandparents and my aunt and my uncle, and so it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's great. Great. All right, let's pray. God, thank you for your beautiful earth, for the joy of seeing new things and experiences. Thank you for the chance to be back here to start a new year, a new season. Thank you for your word and the way that it gets into our hearts and souls and messes with us. And we pray that you'll be with us here in the room and online. And we pray that you will also take whatever it is that we are holding, and we give that to you, to hold for us because we're tired. So speak to us. Our hands are now empty. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so I'm going to put this over here just in case y'all want to run that, however that goes. So first things first, lunch at Venetia. How many are going? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Any of you guys online going to meet us there? Judy, you coming from Montana?
Right now, but I am back in Dallas, but not to, we
Oh.
arrived midnight last night, so there's no way.
We're impressed that you're there. Did I say
I'm
9?
sitting up here.
Okay,
Good
good.
to
We're
see you
glad
all.
you're here.
Thank you.
Okay, we are, our study is Acts, Catching Up with the Spirit with Matthew Skinner, who's a New Testament scholar, and that will begin next week. And this week, I have been asked to share, okay, what about your sabbatical trip? So the one that I'm focusing on is the one in the Steps of Paul. And you have in the room here the map, and I'm sorry I did not think to get you guys the map online. If anyone wants to take a picture of it and send it to and post it. She doesn't have can anyone take a picture of it and post it on the Women's Bible Study?
Yes.
Then they'll be able to see that, and also the one on the back. So thank you. I didn't think about that. All right. And yeah, Heather's on it. Thank you. Heather's on it. Okay, so this is a mosaic in Philippi, and at Lydia's baptismal site. And if you could go ahead and minimize this for a second, I just want to show. So it's Greek to me, but so this is Ephesus. You've got the phi, F, there's the phi. These are the C's are kind of capital S's. There's a little bitty hook on the bottom. So Ephesus, there's Ephesus, and that's in Turkey. Okay. And this is basically Paul's, well, it kind of is actually him coming back this way, but we went this way, which is like his second trip. So this is Troas. This is a row, Troas. This is Neapolis where they landed, and then Philippi. You see the phi again. Coming over to Thessaloniki, that's this, Berea, then Athena, let's see, Athene, yes, this is Athens, and then Corinthos is Corinth, okay? So that's it, that's all I've got to say. Paul did that like 2 solid times and an extra half time. And also was down in South Turkey. You can see on that map, this map here. And so all of this was his, as if you heard the sermon on Sunday, he was just propelled forward by these game changers and by depending on the Spirit. And I hope if you haven't listened to that sermon, you will, because to me, I think it's just huge. It's such a model for us, and he always is saying, imitate me. And so, yeah, we need to do that, but we're going to go kind of in depth. So we landed in Istanbul up here. That's in Byzantium, and also later called Constantinople. So Byzantium was in like the 300s. And by the way, you know, I get talking, so you're just going to have to like yell out, Ellen, what about blah, 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 blah. So feel free. So we landed in Istanbul and basically came down in this area. in this area are all the churches of the Revelation, the 7 churches. And we went to Laodicea and Hierapolis, which are 2 of those churches, and then Ephesus, which is one of those churches. Also, Smyrna, which is on the coast. It's Izmir now, big city, Izmir. And so I'm going to take us. This is us. This is the group in the Istanbul airport. The tricky thing is that you can't have that, the tour guide can't have that sign up at the exit. And so they had always done that before. And so I just knew she's going to be here. So I didn't know where she was. My cell phone wasn't working. I'm the one taking the picture. You can't tell how stressed I am. But they've just all been on the plane from a couple of different places. From left to right, that's Pinar, our guide. She's a very spiritual person. And just beautiful. Tammy, who was in my spiritual direction cohort. Katie Walters, who is a pastor in San Antonio, Janet and Mark Walters' daughter, grew up in this church. Jody, who you can see she's a little spicy. We have named ourselves the Spicy Yayas. Anyway, this is Jody, and she is a friend of Bev's. Bev Markham was the pastor at Southminster before I got there, before coming here. Stacy Eichert, might recognize her, the former associate pastor here, who's now in Austin. Lil Smith, who is has a ministry at the Retreat House and is a spiritual director and reverend doctor. Monica is in my cohort, spiritual direction, and Cindy's in my cohort. So that's us. And we started on the day of the election of Erdogan, re-election of Erdogan, in Istanbul. And this is the Hagia Sophia, which is the holy, that means holy wisdom. Hagia is holy, Sophia is wisdom, and that's Greek to me. And this is a church that has been it's a church, has been taken over as a mosque, has then was a museum. In fact, when we went, when Karen, the trip that we were on, that was a museum, and you could go in and see how the Muslims had covered up the Christian symbols, and then they chipped it back off. This time, Erdogan took it over as a mosque. So that was a grieving for me, and for the people of Turkey. Erdogan is kind of dictator-ish, and in fact, they say basically he's trying to make Turkey be a the flagship Asian country that's very modern. And he took taxpayers' money and built this huge airport that is now debugged and very impressive, but they call it Erdogan's airport because they didn't want it. They had a fine airport. So that kind of thing, and it's oppressing the people and using their money, and it's a very sad thing. There we are, and so we're holding our shoes in bags, and we're barefooted on the rug. You could still see some of the Christian symbols, and they would have cloths that they would put over the picture of Mary and Jesus or whatever. So we went to the Spice Market, and some people spent a whole lot of money. And that place is a zoo, and I can hardly handle it. Then we went to Ephesus. So now we're in Ephesus. This is the main colonnade as you walk into Ephesus. And they've changed, they've done more and more digging and reconstruction, even just since we went in 2019. It was amazing. It really was amazing. In Ephesus, the goddess is Artemis, and Artemis was everything for them. And so Paul and these people of the way were coming into this culture that was so polytheistic, but then the goddess Artemis, who fell down from heaven, you can see that she's quite a nurturer, because she has like, I don't know how to count all the boobs, but she's it's all nurturing. So the Victoria's Secret could never keep up with her, it's about fertility. It's about the people and the land and all this, and
yet she was the virgin goddess.
And she was a virgin goddess, yes. Yeah, that's right. And so this gives a picture of the well. These are the terrace houses. And you can see, I mean, it's just unbelievable. I mean, this is like more than Highland Park of Ephesus. And you see this wonderful mosaic, and all of this has been, dug out and uncovered and preserved. It's just craziness. They had running water in these houses. Yeah. Now it was all because they had a tank up there, and they just piped it in, and yeah. So in Ephesus, Paul was there for quite a while. So let's look. Acts 18.
How did you travel from Istanbul to Ephesus?
How did I travel from Istanbul to Ephesus? That's a good question. We flew into the inland, Pamukkale, which is a beautiful resort area with hot and cold springs, and that's where Laodicea is. And in fact, Hierapolis is the hot springs. That's where people would all go to for healing. And they had, strangely enough, the largest cemetery of any metropolitan area, because the healing didn't necessarily work. But it was a good thought. And so they had the hot springs in Hierapolis. Colossae was about 20 kilometers away, and they had cold springs in Colossae. So the Colossians, the letters of Colossians, the church that was there, and Laodicea was in the middle, right? Neither hot nor cold. Laodicea was not near the source, and so by the time, if they had piped water from the hot springs over here, or even the cold over here, by the time it got to Laodicea, especially from the hot water, the minerals would have fallen out of solution, and it tastes like you're in Midland. I think that's why they call Midland, is because it's in the middle of something that the water has to taste really bad, and you want to spit it out of your mouth. And so that's the line in Revelation. But yeah, we flew in there and went to those sites, and then, but those were not in Paul's footsteps. That was really Revelations.
Okay, you flew.
Yeah, we flew there, then a bus. The rest of it was by bus, basically. We'll say basically. Okay. All right, so Acts 18, 1-3. After this, Paul left Athens and went to Corinth. So this was on his, I gotta have my map. Got an extra map anywhere? I'll get one. Let's go. Let's see, the people online have the map now.
I posted it on Realm.
Okay, thanks. You guys online, there's a map for you too on Realm. Sorry for not catching that. If you see this red arrow, which is the third missionary journey, that's when he spent a lot of time at Ephesus. But the second one, when he came back from Corinth and came into Ephesus and just knew that he was going to come back. He went on down to Jerusalem that trip. So that's where we are right now. After this, Paul left Athens and went to Corinth. There he found a Jew named Aquila, native of Pontus, who had recently come from Italy, and his wife Priscilla, because Claudius, the emperor there, had ordered all Jews to leave Rome. So there you have a little picture of that persecution going on, right? Paul went to see them, and because he was of the same trade, he stayed with them, and they worked together. By trade, they were tent makers. So what they say is that this area, this colonnaded road, which is heading to the stadium, basically, where Paul was ultimately run out of town. These little niches were the markets, and so it's likely that Paul and Priscilla and Aquila were tent makers in selling their tents in this area. So, any questions from where we are? Okay. All right. So, so our travels, we went to Ephesus first because we were in Turkey, and it was kind of like we were doing this third journey, Ephesus, and he was returning to all these churches on this red arrow thing. In truth, the first time he got to these churches was the second journey, which was what we talked about on Sunday morning, and he was trying to figure out, what in the world do I do? I've revisited these churches down in Pamphylia and the Blackwell route, and so now what, God? And so this is a picture of that. So we're going to look at Acts, what is that? 1 second, 16, there it is. 16, and this is what we read on Sunday morning. As they went from town to town, they delivered for them the observance of the decision that had been made by the apostles and elders in Jerusalem. That was the Jerusalem Council, and they had basically opened up this the Church of the Way, the people of the Way, to Gentiles as well by taking down the barrier of circumcision, right? So Acts 15, and it's not like they had internet or CNN, and so they're taking the news to these churches, and it's spreading very slowly, and then the Orthodox Jews are getting madder and madder, kind of all along there. So it wasn't like a light switch. Oh, and I kind of thought it was. Oh, that's after Acts 15. No, it was a struggle all the way. So the churches were strengthened in their faith and increased in their numbers daily. This is verse 6. They went through the region of Phrygia and Galatia, having been forbidden by the Spirit to speak of the word in Asia. So you see that on this map. They're going up on that purple arrow, and they can't go into Asia, and they can't go into Bithynia, which is the pink area, because the Spirit is forbidding them. We don't know what that means. Have you ever been forbidden by the Spirit? I don't know. I mean, I think there are times when we are. It's like, no, don't need to go there. Yeah, that thing that says, Kate says, that thing that says maybe don't do that. Yeah, it's that kind of gut knowing, or that, yeah. So it could have been a practical reason, or it could have been just this knowing that he had. Sorry. Then they, so passing Mysia, they went to Troas. Down to Troas because it's downhill. Sorry. Okay. During the night, Paul had a vision, and there stood a man from Macedonia, pleading with him and saying, "Come over to Macedonia and help us." When he had seen the vision, we immediately tried to cross over to Macedonia, being convinced that God had called us to proclaim the good news to them. And so here is the man from Macedonia and a very, very tired Paul. That's good. Okay. So this is where they are. From Troas, immediately they sailed to Neapolis and then went up to Philippi. And as we saw on Sunday, there's Stacy at the river. He then, this is verse 11. We set sail from Troas and took a straight course to Samothrace, the following day to Neapolis, and from there to Philippi, which is the leading city in the district of Macedonia and a Roman colony. So it was Greco-Roman, right? We remained in the city for some days. On the Sabbath day, we went outside the gate by the river, where we supposed there was a place of prayer, and we sat down and spoke to the women who had gathered there. So why did they go to the river? To pray, but why the river?
Well, it's where women could get together.
It's where the women could get together, yes.
Water was the source.
Yeah, water was a source, and it's a place of baptism. It's a place of baptism. Yeah. And so a certain woman named Lydia, a worshiper of God, she came from Thyatira. Okay. Thyatira is one of those churches of the Revelation in central Turkey now. She was in the city of Thyatira and a dealer of purple cloth. So she had bucks. The Lord opened her heart to listen eagerly to what was said by Paul. And what is Paul saying? What was his line? What was his deal? Resurrection. Grace and resurrection. Saved by grace. Yeah, this is Christ. This is the Son of God. This is the one who has come for us, and this is the power he brings. The good news, right? And so she and her whole household were baptized, and she urged us, saying, "If you have judged me to be faithful to the Lord, come and stay at my home." And she prevailed on us. So this is where the river meets the Via Ignatia. I don't have the Via Ignatia. The Via Ignatia is on the back. Okay, let's look at that. I thought I had it in here, but maybe not. So the Via Ignatia is that blue map for you guys online, the Gospel Road, and it goes from Istanbul, which was Byzantium at the time, all the way over across the Adriatic to Rome. So it's a major trade route. And you see Philippi right there in this primo spot. Amphipolis, Thessaloniki, and Berea is also next there, and Apollonia. So Paul is going right down that road. And this is that road. This is part of the road that would have gone across and further, but the river is, so that is where the church remembers that Lydia was baptized. And this is a shrine, and I just loved when they took the picture that I was there talking to Lydia. And so that is my when I saw that, I actually teared up. Because it was so profound to me to be so present to that. So that is now my screensaver on my phone. And so it went no longer Winnie the Pooh.
And you're even wearing the same thing.
Yeah, I was wearing purple cloth because, yeah. So I was glad that we matched. Yeah. Yeah. And this is the baptismal site, and this, and a little, you can see here also a little like amphitheater thing. So we were there, and there was a big baptism in the chapel, an Eastern Orthodox baptism. And this area, this open air, chapel, was empty. And it was Sunday morning, and we had worship there. And it was so profound. And then we remembered our baptism. And so you see this, the baptismal font of the olden days, like the 300s and before. I mean, I don't know how long they continued to have the cross-shaped baptismal font. This one, they're actually, the river is flowing through it. But normally a font would be this cross shape, and you would go in one side, die to self, be baptized. You go under the water, and then you go out the other side, a new person. And so that's the baptismal side of Lydia. And yeah. And we were there all by ourselves. It was unbelievable. So then we go into the city of Philippi, and Lil is there on the Via Egnatia. So it's going right through Philippi. So definitely Paul walked here. And so here is the city, kind of a large courtyard that was there. And you see on this broken piece in the middle, there's a circle, a seal kind of thing. And so they believe that is the, it was above on that one side there, and that was like the magistrate. So here is Paul in Philippi. This is Acts 16:16. One day, as we were going to the place of prayer, we met a slave girl who had a spirit of divination and brought her owners a great deal of money by fortune telling. While she followed Paul and us, she would cry out, "These men are slaves of the Most High, who proclaim to you the way of salvation." Satan is always the one who recognized Jesus first in the Gospels. Like, it's like he would say, yes, the demons and it's like, this is the Son of Man, this is the Son of God. Yeah. So it took the disciples a while, but the demons got it right off. She kept doing this for many days, but Paul, very much annoyed, turned and said to the spirit, I order you in the name of Jesus to come out of her. And it came out that very hour. But when her owners saw that their hope of making money was gone, they seized Paul and Silas and dragged them into the marketplace right here before the authorities. When they brought them before the magistrates, they said, "These men are disturbing our city. They are Jews, and they are advocating customs that are not lawful for us as Romans to adopt or observe." Speaking of, monotheism and not doing idol worship and not worshiping the emperor as God, right? The crowd joined in attacking them. The magistrates had them stripped of their clothing and ordered them to be beaten with rods. So that was right here, most likely. It was somewhere in the square, and most likely here. Paul had a great deal of passion for the gospel. A great deal of passion. After they had given them a severe flogging, they threw them in prison and ordered the jailer to keep them securely. Of course, this is the one that after midnight, the earthquake came and busted open the jail, and and the jailer was afraid that Paul and Silas had gotten away, and he was going to kill himself. And they said, no, we're here. And then he, the jailer, and all of his family were saved. So all of that is right here. This is Paul's beloved church, Philippi. He wasn't there very long because he got run out, right? And so he ran down the gospel. Oh, I gotta see, will this work? Yeah, so we were in the amphitheater there, and of course the acoustics are just so amazing. And she's what, 40 feet away or something. It's just crazy. So that was Katie Walters. How can I keep from singing? So they got run out of Philippi and down the gospel road, the Via Ignatia to Thessaloniki. And there, Acts 17, 1 through 14. After Paul and Silas had passed through Amphipolis and Apollonia, they came to Thessalonica, where there was a synagogue of the Jews, and Paul went in, as was his custom. He always went to the synagogues first the Jews, then the Gentiles. And on 3 Sabbath days urged them, argued with them from the scriptures, explaining that and proving that it was necessary for the Messiah to suffer and to rise from the dead, and saying, this is the Messiah, Jesus, whom I am proclaiming to you. Some of them were persuaded and joined Paul and Silas, as did a great many of the devout Greeks, and not a few of the leading women. That's a big line, right? Because this is not, in this culture, women did not count, okay? But the Jews became jealous, and with the help of some ruffians and in the marketplaces, they formed a mob and set the city in an uproar. While they were searching for Paul and Silas to bring them to the assembly, they attacked Jason's house. It's like your little house church. They just came in and, tore up the house church. They dragged Jason. They couldn't find him. They dragged Jason. Oh, they were looking for Paul and Silas. When they couldn't find him, they dragged Jason and some of the believers before the city authorities, shouting, these people who have been turning the world upside down have come here also, and Jason has entertained them as guests. They are all acting contrary to the decrees of the emperor, saying that there is another king named Jesus. Okay, you see the thing about this, the emperor cult, and also these goddesses, gods and goddesses. And it is just a huge threat to be a Christian. And we're still here. We're still here. It's just amazing. So let's see. Verse 8, the people and the city officials were disturbed when they heard this, and after they had taken bail from Jason and the others, they let them go. So what happens? Game changers in the Spirit's hands. They get moving down the gospel road, and they're propelling the gospel forward all the time. They're in Berea. Now this is in Berea. It's where that mosaic was of Paul and the Macedonian man. But these steps, they call it a bema. It's a platform from which people speak, and mostly like kind of city officials. But this is where Paul talked to the church at Berea. And like these very steps, through the history of time, the church has remembered this. That very night, the believers went off to sent Paul and Silas off to Berea, and when they arrived, they went to the Jewish synagogue. Why? Jews first. These Jews were more receptive than those in Thessalonica, and they welcomed the message very eagerly and examined the scriptures every day to see whether these things were so. Many of them therefore believed, including not a few Greek women and men, and women is first in that, and that is from the original scripture of high standing. But when the Jews of Thessalonica learned that the word of God had been proclaimed by Paul and Berea as well, they came there too, to stir up and incite the crowds. Then the believers immediately sent Paul away to the coast, but Silas and Timothy remained behind. So pushing the gospel down the road. That would be a hard ministry, wouldn't it? That would be a hard ministry.
It's funny to me that, he talks about these churches that.
Wait 1 second. Say who you are also.
This is Sandra. It's funny to me that he talks about these churches that he loves and he still, writes letters to them and everything, but he's run out of town half the time. So,
Yeah.
but it's like, he still loves them. He's started these churches and there are people there that, it's the town, I guess, that he doesn't like, but the churches that he loves.
Yeah.
So,
And the churches are being persecuted,
yeah.
not only by the Romans, but by
he would understand that too, because at one point
He was
that's what he
one of them.
would have done that. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
Absolutely,
like, oh yeah.
because they're messing with our religion. This is the
Right.
way it is. Yeah. Yeah.
They were revolutionaries.
Yes. And I love this. This is another mosaic there. And I love this because it shows this is the church. This is the church of Paul's time. It had women. It had centurions, Roman centurions. It had Greeks. It had Jews. These are high priests or priests. And it had like people who had no station in life. So that picture, I think, is just amazing. An amazing.
So those are
station.
ancient mosaics?
No, those are not ancient mosaics. They're new. Yeah, it's a depiction of it. Yeah. Okay, this is Meteora. It has nothing to do with Paul's journeys. He probably did go through this area, but these rocks, those caves held monks who were trying to be protected from the Roman government, and so the aesthetic monks, they're off by themselves. Sort of like John the Baptist. Yeah. So, and this guy is an iconographer. And people are going to start thinking that I'm either Roman Catholic or Eastern Orthodox because I have so many icons. But this is what he painted for me. He signed it back here. This was actually already painted. I just simply bought it. Then it was painted for me. But I want you to, let me show you guys. Okay, can y'all see that? Okay, see and I'm gonna pass it around, but there's two Jesuses in this boat. And the deal is that the icons tell a story. So he was asleep in the boat and then he's awake and
Can you hold it up just a little bit? We could only see. Oh, there we go.
Yeah. And on the back he says, Irene, Umen, Haman, which means peace from me to you. And he's a priest. So it was great because he accepted the pastors in the group, these women pastors. So that was great. Of course, we had spent some money there, but he wasn't snooty about it. And these are this is one of the monasteries. It was just stunning. And so we did get to go into a monastery. Yeah, isn't it just stunning? It's just, yeah. The one that we went to was a nunnery, and this is how we got there. And it was just the most wonderful, calming path, centering path to be able to go there. And you see, we're all dressed up. It's an Eastern Orthodox nunnery, and so we're all in our dresses. Yeah, it was, and this is the yard that they had kept. Yeah. It was really stunning. Okay, so we have now been run out of Berea by the Jews from Thessalonica. The church at Berea is beloved, right? There are no letters that we know of to them. And heading to Athens. So there we are. In Athens, you know, it is the center of knowledge and kind of the what is it? Rhetoric, and arguing through and just figuring everything out. And of course, Paul is stepping into this situation where, I mean, all of the gods, and he comes in, right? This is from the Parthenon, and you're looking out, and this is Mars Hill right here. So you're looking down, and all of that's Athens, and Mars Hill right by the Parthenon. Mars Hill is where Paul went to argue the gospel. And argue doesn't mean, it means defend, right? And convince, okay? So here we are on Mars Hill, and this is taking too long, y'all. Is this helpful? I mean, I'm just talking like crazy. Okay.
Wonderful to see these footsteps.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. Because if you're sick of it, I can stop. But I get really excited about it. So Paul in Athens. This is 16 through 25. While Paul was waiting for them in Athens, he was deeply distressed to see that the city was full of all these idols. So he argued in the synagogue with the Jews and the devout persons, and then also in the marketplace every day, and those who happen to be there. Also, some Epicurean and Stoic philosophers debated with him. So all of these philosophies and this knowing and this struggling about, you know, who knows the most and who's got this right. Some said, what does this babbler want to say? Others said he seems to be a proclaimer of foreign divinities. It's because he was telling the good news about Jesus and the resurrection. So the resurrection is Anastasia, okay? And that is also a goddess. So they got confused thinking that he was talking about a goddess, Anastasia, but he was talking about resurrection. So they took him and brought him to the Areopagus, which is Mars Hill, okay, that's this, and asked him, may we know what this new teaching is that you're presenting? It sounds rather strange to us, so we would like to know what it means. No, right? All the Athenians and foreigners were living there would spend their time in nothing but telling or hearing something new. I just love that. I mean, that is a description of that culture. Then Paul stood in front of the Areopagus and said, Athenians, I see how extremely religious you are in every way. For as I went through the city and looked carefully at the objects of your worship, I found among them an altar with the inscription to an unknown God. And what therefore you worship as unknown, This I proclaim to you, the God who made the world and everything in it, he who is the Lord of heaven and does not live in shrines made with human hands, nor is he served by human hands as though he needed anything, since he himself gives life to all mortals and breath in all things. I'm going to scoot down. For in him we live and move and have our being, even some of your poets have said, for we too are his offspring. So he's grabbing, this is the deal about meeting people where they are. He's speaking their language. He's probably by the Spirit thought, okay, they've got this unknown God. I can use this. I don't know if the Spirit's ever given you the right words, but the Spirit has definitely given me the right words at the right time in different occasions. So I think that was that. I don't give that brilliance to Paul. Anyway, let's see. Since we are God's offspring, this is verse 29, we ought not to think that the deity is like gold or silver or stone, an image formed by the art and imagination of mortals. Does Paul say it? I mean, that's them's fighting words. Oh my God, right? Anyway, and he tells more about the resurrection, and some of them scoffed in verse 32. Others said, "We'll hear from you again about this." At that point, Paul left them, but some of them joined him and became believers in this culture of so much knowing. I know everything. When we know everything, we're not very teachable. So Dionysius, the Areopagite, so one of those who was arguing on the hill, and a woman named Damaris, and others with them. So Damaris must have been very faithful. Yeah. This is Diolkos. This is the Portage Road at Corinth. If you look on your map, so he went from Athens to Corinth, and you see that there's an isthmus there. And this is where all of the trade went through. So the church at Corinth is quite well placed, we'll say. I think the Spirit did a good job with that. And so this is the Portage Road where the ships would go, instead of going around the bottom of Greece, what is now Greece, which is very treacherous, and there would be lots of shipwrecks. They would go across this isthmus on this road here. In Corinth, there were physicians, and physicians would, there was a little kind of witchery around it, but they would use these body parts, and it's like if this one is new and we set it beside this, then it will be healed, or whatever it is. I don't know how they did it, but that was all. It was all part of the trying to understand the body and heal it. And so we get the whole thing of we are all members of one body, and no parts are more important. This is, we see in the mirror dimly. That would be bronze, and it would have been polished. And we carry the gospel in clay jars. The clay jars are jewelry boxes. That's a jewelry box. So we carry the gospel, this jewel, in clay jars, which is our broken little selves. Yeah. I'm going to scoot. That is the port there. And so we're nearing the end of this journey. In Acts 20, y'all aren't going to have time for your questions. Oh, you kill me. Okay. All right, so Acts 20. You know how Jesus set his face toward Jerusalem? Paul did too. If you look at this, this third missionary journey, the red one, he's down in Corinth. And there was the uproar in Corinth that's going to move him out of there, okay? And that was about him, the ministry after 2.5 years there, being a threat to the silversmiths who were making these little idols of Artemis. And so he's run out of Ephesus. And he is discerning that he needs to go back to Jerusalem, and he knows there that he will be imprisoned or killed because of his ministry is a threat to the current system, just like Jesus, right? And so in Acts 20, verse 1, after the uproar had ceased, Paul sent for his disciples and after encouraging them and saying farewell. So he's saying farewell, not just farewell, but farewell. He left for Macedonia. Why did he go up there instead of going across like he did with the purple arrow and down? Why did he go? Were the steps retraced?
Say goodbye.
To say goodbye. To say goodbye to each of those churches. Yeah. And so, when he had gone through those regions and given the believers much encouragement, they're under persecution from the Jews and the Romans and the whole culture, and they're little house churches. It's not 100 people. Like, it may be 100 people, but that's 6 churches, right? Now that is the church of that city, is these 6 houses or whatever. So he stayed there for 3 months. Verse 3, he was about to set sail for Syria when a plot came up against him by the Jews. So he decided to return through Macedonia. He was accompanied by Sopters, I don't know who that is, from Berea, and Aristarchus and Secundus from Thessalonica. All these people from these churches, they went with him. It says, they went ahead and were waiting for us in Troas, but we sailed from Philippi after the days of the unleavened bread. In 5 days joined him. So they're in Troas for a while. And then we get to verse 13. When we went ahead to the ship and set sail for Assos, intending to take Paul on board there, for he had made this arrangement, intending to go by land himself. So we went ahead to the ship to sail, but he walked. He walked from Troas to Assos. This is the road that he walked on. And to me, this is his Gethsemane. And it's one of the holiest places in the world. And this rock is from there. And you can see how worn it is. It was an extra pound in my luggage. Yeah, we spent some time there. It's just a holy place. And so from there, from this, he walks that 30 miles. We did not walk 30 miles. And then that whole next section, and I will leave that to y'all to read. I hope you will read it. Is his goodbye to the church at Ephesus, to the leaders at Ephesus. And it makes me think of sending your kid off to school, you know. Yeah, it's heavy duty. So we have discussion questions. Do you have half of a minute for each one. So we're not doing that. So I have on this discussion sheet the attributes of a church leader, which are necessary and which are important. Evangelist, church planter, father. He was the father of all these churches and the grandfather of others, right? Mentor. Paul's always saying, imitate me. Mediator. You weren't baptized under Apollos or under Paul, you were baptized. Quit fighting over it. Pastor, this one who loves these churches. So which are necessary and which are important and which apply to Paul? They all apply to Paul. All apply to Paul. And he does not, the thing that really hit me this trip is what a pastor he was and how much he loved these churches. And that's why you see all of these names in, say hi to, Fred and Ethel, make sure that you say hi to Judy Forbes. How is she doing? And what, Susan Mowdy, I haven't seen her since we were in Corinth together. It's that kind of connection with each of these churches as the father, the one who planted them or whatever, if the Spirit didn't. Yeah. So that was huge. And here I am. And Paul gets such a bad rap, especially with women. And it's because people take that context and apply it to today. They don't look at that context. And all of these women on this trip, these pastors that could take Paul or leave Paul, many of them, it's like they saw Paul in a new way. And that was a joy for me. And Katie Walters says, and she's a 7-year pastor. And it hasn't been easy. Sometimes the church is hard to love. Now, not y'all, but other churches. And she said, I'm getting the sense that Paul really is a pastor. He went back to each one of those to encourage them in the face of persecution. Stay true to the course, stay true to what you have been taught, stay true to grace and love. Yeah. So I wrote this poem. It's called Paul the Pastor. The Apostle Paul passionately preached this plenty good room gospel to all people who simply paused or passed by. Perhaps you have pinpointed Paul as a pompous and privileged Pharisee proselytizing the precluded. Plainly, that's all practically palpable, but pray tell, what did you perceive pertaining to Paul the pastor? For Paul poured himself into his people, prodding them to pattern their public and private posture after him, as he perpetually promoted Christ's sometimes provocative peace. Paul pampered papooses and piqued pubescents in the persuasion, while also parlaying with pigheads, persisting in their pietistical and Pecksnuffian prosanas, forever piteously pursuing Paul. Primarily, his pulse beat passionately for a possibly impious Messiah who had perfected the Pentateuch, Psalms, and Prophets, but also for the persisting physique of Christ to the world, the church. Passels packed with professing people who seemed peculiarly predisposed to pussyfoot and even prevaricate when it came to purposeful perseverance. So Paul prodded, pushed, and by the Spirit propelled the church, propping her up at times of persecution and preoccupation. He pertinaciously prepared her for his departure, knowing the power-mongering pox of the old guard would soon imprison him, or worse, put him to death. So he proceeded to retrace his path, speaking and sometimes penning parting words to each precious church, prayers, praise, and prescription, promising the Spirit to preserve and to keep her. So I posed the question, did Paul patronize the church? Indeed, perhaps. But then that's what some passionate papas do, even when they pastor. There you go. That was profound. Thank you. That was positively persuasive. Now, what should we pray for? Okay, an icon for you. So there are rocks over here. Corinth, Mars Hill, and Sincray.
Legal? I was gonna say, were you allowed to take?
Sincray. Nobody stopped me. This icon spoke to me, and it is Peter and Paul tending baby Jesus. Down a little bit. Okay. And baby Jesus is the church. It's the baby church. And there are times where you look at Paul as talking about nurturing and putting them on milk, that you can only have milk now, but you'll grow up for solid food. It's that nurturing. Yeah. So I had seen this in actually a pottery shop. It's not a hand painted icon, though it has this certificate as if it were, which is just hilarious. But it spoke to me so much, I reached out to that shop owner. I mean, I didn't buy it there because I thought, I don't need another icon. And I came back and I ordered it, and he sent it to me because that's what our job is as pastors. Yeah. So, all right. Prayer.